You're welcome back. You're still watching the Enterprise Morning here on Enterprise Television. The Nigerian Army says it has arrested 9 Yoruba Nation agitators who attacked the Oyo State secretariat in Ibadan on Saturday. Army spokesperson Major General Onyema Nwachukwu said in a statement on Sunday that the suspects were dressed in foreign military camouflage with beret and armed with dangerous weapons.
Yes, apart from arresting 9 suspects, Nwachukwu said that the troops also recovered one semi-automatic pump-action rifle and ammunition from them. He said troops responded swiftly upon receiving news of the attack on the state government secretariat by the group.
According to him, the troops engaged in a shootout with suspects, whom he said were subsequently overwhelmed by superior firepower of the soldiers. While some members of the group fled, 9 of them were apprehended.
Meanwhile, prominent Yoruba Nation agitator Sunday Adeyomo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, has distanced himself from Saturday's invasion.
And to do justice to the topic under review, we have our guest here, Oluwasesan Okunade. He is a chartered accountant and a public affairs commentator. Of course, we also have Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid, a lawyer and a social commentator. Good morning, sirs.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning, thank you very much.
Great to start the week.
Yes, great to have you. I'll begin with Mr. Sheson. It is at this point safe to say that Nigeria is on tenterhooks. Look at the North asking for their republic, the East asking for republic. We've seen that Yorubas have also joined in this quest. If history is anything to go by, I've heard people who are far older than myself say that, the entire makeup, the contraption of Nigeria was just an extemporary makeshift arrangement without, broad consultation. The relationship of Nigeria is apparently going sour, and that's why we see what we are seeing in terms of different groups clamoring for, a breakup from asking out from this contraption. Is it a function of our leaders not realizing that it is time to, for us to go back to the drawing board and see how we can best attend to these issues? Are leaders clueless, or do you think it's time for us as a nation to, to break away?
Thank you very much, Chinere, for that question. First and foremost, this is not new. And I want to say during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, the Arewa Consultative were actually agitating to pull out of the nation called Nigeria. With that, severally, the Southeasterners also coming out to say, let's go our pathway. Fundamentally, I must say that the issue of ground is the unfair situation of the leaders on their part not to have done what is needful. Sincerely speaking, the resources of Nigeria is actually not being utilized the way it should have been, and that's the major reason why all the time you hear different agitation from everywhere. If some of the resources that we have in the country is being utilized the way they should have properly been utilized, there won't be need for any group agitating for a breakup. In as much as we read the story that those that actually granted us independence forcefully brought us together. Even if you are forcefully brought together, if you have understanding of what you're doing as an individual and as a nation, after so much years, I'm sure 1960 till now, we've come of age to have understanding of how we can unanimously come together and make use of the God-given endowment. But because of the greedy nature of every leader that we've had, we've kept seeing agitations coming up. Today, leave it, take it off the hand of a Southwesterner, take it to the Southeast. There will be an agitation to feel like, okay, we are in power now. Can we use this opportunity to our benefit to see how we can develop at the detriment of the other region? So it's, I would call it the greedy nature of our leaders that has metamorphosed so much, diffusing down that what everybody think of is just I and I alone, and not on the part of what can we collectively bring together for the growth of our country. Nigeria is not the only country with diverse ethnic and diverse language and diverse religion. But you see, our politicians are so much been calculative that they understand our language as followers. And pardon me, we are easily fall into their eggs when they want to use it. If there is need for the politicians to have a fair share of our natural resources, do you see division? The answer is no. Before now, we've seen opposition coming to see how to attack the current administration. A lot of them are in the National Assembly. Have you seen the division? The answer is no. When it's time to share our commonwealth, the politician has a common voice against we, the citizen. But when it's time to bring in division and create chaotic situation, it is always a problem within us because we don't come out to speak. And it's just a function of understanding what the citizenry needs, and you just push that to them. Ethnic, religion, sentiment that you can really overcome until we come together and understand the basis that the same way they can speak with one voice, we, the citizen, can come up and speak. This agitation will lead us nowhere because whichever way you want to look at it, we are better as one. I will continue to say that we can go into the generalization of the nation, but we are better as one because there is strength in that particular thing.
All right, as interesting as what you have said, my question to you, Barrister Tunji, I have two questions actually for you. And number one is, knowing this is coming from one of Abiola's, and knowing too well that Abiola is a symbol of democracy. There was a time when June 12th, of course, is still being celebrated in Nigeria. Knowing it's coming from one of the icon of democracy, how treasonable do you think this is? And do you think, as a barrister, that the nation state called Nigeria would follow up with a treasonable charge against her? Now, secondly, as part of the responses that people had on social media, Senator Shehu Sani said, and I quote, "Yoruba Nation agitators, why are you throwing stones at the propellers of the plane when one of your illustrious sons is now the pilot?" The question is, could this be some form of a parquenade or a subtle a travesty on the Yoruba state?
Well, let me first of all say something that has been bugging my mind in terms of this the way we address some of these issues. Because sometimes when Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. A, B, C, D, and he comes together and say they are doing something, they will just generalize it. I don't believe when you say Yoruba Nation or what they're talking about, this is not a Yoruba thing. It's a group thing. I don't tell me those people who are saying they are calling for the agitators. How prominent are they? When was a conference held by the Yorubas to say we are calling for this and we are no longer interested in being part of Nigeria? We want to go on our own. When you talk about what this Yoruba nation they are talking about, where is the territory? Because I know there's Yoruba in Kwara. I'm from Kwara. They are part of Kwara. They are Yoruba there. In the Edo State, there are Yorubas. In the Delta State, there are Yorubas. In the Lagos State, there are Yorubas. When did they come together to say, look, we want to take a decision. We are no longer interested in this. So when one organization comes together, people will now say, they will now attribute where they come from as the position of entire community. And that was why when Nnamdi Kanu was doing his thing, they say the Igbos. That's not an Igbo thing. It's an Nnamdi Kanu and his group team. So and I see this one as the same. I see it as the demand from certain people who are trying to achieve. I don't know what they are trying to achieve because I don't even know how this can be possible, what they wanted to do. I don't know how they can take over the control of government in Oyo State and think they have acquired their own territory. Which territory? In that way. So for me, if that question you're asking does not even need any need to be asked. She has committed an offence. This is classified this as treasonable. The attempt to overthrow the government. Anybody involved in those kind of in those acts and has been attended should be tried for treason. That is when people will be. So the problem we're having in this country is that people are not being punished. People will come out now and say we are using political solution to it, and then everything will say, look, don't tell us, let's talk to her. They are angry, and this is the reason why they are saying what they are doing. That is not the way to go. Once offence is committed, you punish. So as far as I'm concerned, these people have committed what I consider as treasonable felony. They attempt to take over the government of the country, of the Oyo State, and I don't know, because that's not the country, Oyo State. So I am not aware. I don't want to go by the Yoruba people or Hausa people, because AGF say this, or because so some people say this. Those general classification is not helping us, because Mr. A will commit an offense, I will generalize it. Let me also say that, look, I acknowledge the fact that an individual has a right to self-determination. If you want to ask for, or you want to ask for secession or whatever, it may be group, it may be individual, there are procedures under the law to follow. So going to take over the control by force at the government house is as an offense. That is treasonable. That's not the way to go. So for me, what they have done is not in line with the law, and I don't see the basis. And I'm aware. So I want to say that, look, I'm not aware there were sent that generality of the Yorubas to go and do that.
Right. Thank you so much, Vice Tunji. Mr. Sison, I would love for you to speak to the fact that, I mean, Vice Tunji had said this might be a primordial approach, and the few persons under review now in terms of MK Abiola's wife and the few people who went to Oyo State yesterday to cause mayhem, so to speak, does not represent the entire Yoruba umbrella. Speak to this current administration with subsistent realities in terms of how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given the Yorubas, allegedly so now, key offices in his administration. Does this any way, bother you? Does this weaken you? I mean, because some of these are some of the issues that some Nigerians have talked about regarding or referring to the president as insensitive. At a time as this, where we are so divided along ethnic and tribal lines, should the president told that part of giving key offices to Yorubas, knowing that this will further cause a breakdown of law and order?
Well, thank you very much, Chinere. First and foremost, I always go this route to say, most of the time we give this generalization when it comes to these appointments.
Right.
When they say key officers, there are certain areas you want to have the confidence of the people that you can relate it freely and have a good grasp of it. But it's not always generalized to say key position. Fine, you might have the Minister of Finance under your beck and call. There are other, I consider every ministerial appointment, ambassadorial appointment as equal. A minister is a minister. It is the way and manner you carry out your assignment. Because you cannot say that the Ministry of Interior is not important. They have their own role that they play. If they fail, it will definitely impact on your growth. So when people are saying key positions are given to your people, like the last administration say, well, it's a function of if you are made the Minister of Police Affairs and you do what is needful, people will attach so much importance. And you see someone who is the Ministry of Finance that you are considering as key and strategic, not doing anything. So for me, I consider every portfolio as always equal. It's a function of individual placed in there to actually do. 1, 2, you discover that this has been the normal role of us in the country. The last administration came up and we come up with that mode that go to the security, you see the Northern House, go to this place, you see the Northern House, and this also is applicable, I would say partially in this administration, because I know the military force is not dominated by the Westerner. It's a problem we inherited of always being sectionalized in the way we do our things. Everybody feels that we are in there, it should be about you. It's not only at the federal level, even at the state. If a governor comes in now, the first thing you hear people talk about is that it's people from his constituency predominantly doing this. We have actually sacrificed merit on the altar of politics. Right. And it's something that is actually worrisome. But be it as it may, I would say that I don't consider that as a major problem. Whichever position the president, don't forget that most of these appointments are not basically president at the president instance. Most of the time, it's individual that recommend them. It's individual that recommend some of those people to the president.
But it's within his prerogative to say to give a nod or not.
But if somebody who you so much have confidence in, take for example, he has his allies in the north, and most of the time, the way politics goes, there are people behind the scene. If my friend becomes, for example, holds a political office today, he has his ally that he has confidence in. He always refer to me as a fellow, Accountant General of the Federation to be. If he has that mic, he has the confidence that I can bring in this person to actually work. So if he's in position to recommend, he might recommend those things. But you will not be saying Barrister Tunji behind the scene, but you only be saying Sheson in front, putting that person forth. And you say, no, it's this person. So most of the time, the way these politicians work is they rely on judgment of people they have confidence in. Even when they can't do the work, they make the recommendation. And those are the people that we see. I keep asking, how much closeness do you think that the former Minister of Humanitarian, how much do the president know of him? She came highly recommended from the governor of the state. And I think, my friend, we said it times to that number, as at the time that this appointment was made, there were letters sent to governors to recommend individuals. How much of them will you know? It's based on recommendation that the president will act, but that doesn't suffice that he cannot reject. But most of the time, he has confidence that who you must recommended is worthwhile based on the CV that they will present. But we have said it that it's high time as a nation we come together to get things done as a collective.
Okay, let me just add something.
Okay, please,
regarding what Session said regarding juicy and what do you call it now? The position given to the key position. There are key positions. Now, Session addressed the issue from the angle of service. The people who are complaining about or talking about key position are not looking at service. They are looking at where the Commonwealth are always gathered. So we're not looking. They are not looking at the way you are looking. Do you understand the way it should be? Look at service. They are not looking at service. They are looking at it. Look, this area, these are where you see our money, our revenues are coming from. This is the position where people can benefit more. Those are the areas they are looking at. And that's why they say they call it juicy, or they call it the most strategic position. And you truly, if you look at the most position they call strategic. They are dominated by people from the from
the customs, the immigration, and so on and so forth.
The ports, the what's it called, finance, almost FRSC.
Exactly.
You are right, Mr. So I just wanted to add to what Mr. Chisa was saying. So during the election that brought President Tinubu to office, we saw some governors who worked for him, so to speak. And a fallout of that is the former governor of Oyo State, who is now a minister. So it is not entirely out of place to say that in this administration we have seen people who allegedly work for the president, whether they are elected for those positions or not, have been made ministers, have been appointed into key offices. So I understand your bias, I understand your modeling, but again, look at it from that perspective, just like you have.
Yeah, you see, Chair, I will always say this: the president had that option to say, from each state, from each senatorial area, can you provide for us people that can work? And quite interesting, I'm sure that letter came when Wike himself was still the governor of Rivers State before his exit to hand over to Fubara. So if you feel that there is no one who worth it in your state, you definitely take it up. I'm sure he has the option to refuse. But at that point in time, even if the president had said, Wike, I want you to work for me, say, Mr. President, I've actually worked for 8 years. Can I step down? And I have someone who can deliver, just like myself. But trust an average politician. They want to remain at the corridor. So it's about what I still call the greedy nature. And what is the point of that? We are not saying it from the area of service. When you talk about when all of them comes in as a minister for next meeting, do they segregate to say this one, see this one? No. We must consider every position given to us as a place of service. And I've seen instances where Ministry of Agriculture, if judiciously worked on, will be much more better than the Minister of Finance.
All right.
The Minister of Finance can go the route to say he determines how to share the money. But if everyone is saying it from the place of service that as Minister of Agriculture that you're not paying attention to, if you don't give certain funds to me, people will raise the alarm. But we've always considered it that this area is revenue, is juicy, and because not because you want to serve the nation, but because you want to serve yourself and enrich yourself the more. And that's why we continue to have that chaotic nature that we're seeing because of the greedy nature of our people.
Yes, very, very true. All right, so let's come back home. Let's come. Yes.
You talk about the position I think the position are the only problem.
Of Nigeria.
How many Nigerians are waiting to get that talk?
All right, so let's come back home to the issue of agitation. Barrister Tunji, you are a barrister, and I want to assume you are amongst all of us. You understand the Constitution better, and also as an active politician, federalism is traced to Sir Frederick Lugard in Nigeria. And the question is, don't you think it's time that Nigeria has come to that point where it is time for us to start possibly considering federalism as the best option to stop all of these pockets of agitation here and there from different regions in Nigeria?
The last time I checked, we are still operating federalism.
True federalism.
I don't know what they mean by true or not true.
Because it's federalism.
It is federalism. It's a different ballgame. The one we are operating in Nigeria today is federalism.
Yes, but
the only thing is that we are not doing the way it should be done, and that's why we say true. We are not doing the way it should be done because the situation whereby, in fact, I saw one post where some people are saying the government will take over the payment of salary of the state. I say, are we no longer operating a federal system of government? So, you know, when we operate things, it make it look like we are in a unitary system of government. And that's why some people see the president as Alpha. In fact, some people who ask the president to come out to go and take over a particular state or a role of the governor in a particular state because they see him as Alpha and Omega as in control of everything. We are and I won't blame them because those governors in those states too, who are supposed to be independent of themselves, who have the sovereign power to administer their states, see themselves as subordinates or as an agent or agency of the federal government, and that's why it's been looking into that manner. You see, the way our constitution is today, there is no way the true federalism we are talking about can come into play. A situation whereby I have my resources in my state, and the federal government will be the one to annex it or take it. It will not give me that independence to say, look, I'm not subordinate, because that's where the money comes from. And that's when we blame most of the government and say they are not ingenious, they are not thinking, they are not all the things that will bring money. Some of them are beneath the grant, and by our law, anything beneath the grant is controlled by the federal government. So that's why sometimes they are relaxed, because one of these things have been taken over by the federal government until we have a devolution of proper devolution of power, whereby state can control the resources in their state. Then that is when you see the governors too thinking and trying to annex those resources for the benefit of their people. That it is today may be difficult because some of the things that are supposed to bring money for them have been taken over by the federal government.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tunji. Mr. Sison, your final thoughts. I like that you've taken a peaceful approach. I mean, let's stay together as a country, as against people who are calling for secession and all of that. What would you love the current administration to begin to do now? I mean, down up person in terms of it's not just about the government; it's also about the people. What would you tell Nigerians, say to Nigerians, and expect that they implement immediately to make us a better, people in terms of the dignity that you've talked about? And then for government, what would you like this administration to begin to do, beginning from today, to ensure that everybody feels like we are running an all-inclusive government?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. First and foremost, I will start with the government. And I always say this, we have the policies, we have all the natural resources that can make this nation great. We have the human capital, the intellects are there. But the only thing we are lacking is consequences for wrongdoing. And that on its own is creating a lot of problems. I want on the part of the government to come out and start taking action. No one should be above the law. We should not be living, creating segregation, among things that we're doing. The commonwealth of the nation should be beneficiary to all and not just to few. I'm saying this from the perspective of the new policy in terms of power. we've seen that come out, and it's created a lot of segregation.
Right.
People are picking me up on it to say, so those of us in Band Z, we are not considered as a nation. And you know the way that thing works is you are considering a feeder that cut across. So even people that are on feeder of Band A are less privileged too, who may not be able to afford it.
Exactly.
So I think government should look for a way to make sure that our common resources are evenly shared among everyone, and there are consequences for wrongdoing. This issue of agitation, you can only tame it by making sure that whosoever the person is actually being punished, and that will serve as deterrent to others. Whosoever is thinking that in another region or even within our region, when he sees the punishment being, put up on the person that is carrying out this, then he will have a rethink. And for the citizen, I will always say, when you see something, say something. It's high time we all come together for the growth of our nation as against running down our nation. I think that's the major area, because most of the time we have this nonchalant attitude to say, well, what will my contribution, do to the growth of the nation? No, your contribution can go a long way. Even if they are not giving you a listening ear, keep hammering it. One day, once you eat continuously, there will be a listening ear to whatever you say.
Thank you so much.
Very true.
Abraham, your 2 cents before we go.
My 2 cents is that the government should be for all, and then if you want to ask for agitate, you are entitled to agitate, then you must do it in line with the law. And I also want to say, look, if the government wants to ensure that, look, people are not, those who have committed or done the wrong thing are not seen as messiah or whatever, the government should follow the law in bringing them to book, because you can see what Nnamdi Kanu is getting some sympathy, not because of the way a manner is being handled by the government. So the government should do it in a way that will not suggest that they are being persecuted.
Right.
So they should do the right thing, and they should be punished if they find it.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Session Okwabe, the consummate accountant, and Tunji Abdulhamid, a legal luminary. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of our
Thank
show
you
today.
very much. My
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. Henry?
That's a big one. It's a lot.
Right, it's a lot. All right, thank you so much for being on the program and staying with us today. On behalf of everyone, it's bye for now.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.